Oh boy, it looks like I'm all alone in this cave. Good thing I have this rusty old hammer that I found lying on the basement of my dad's house. And I don't know feet. Wait, scratch that last one. Oh no, a giant boss, whatever will I do?
Happening. Oh god!
Hello everybody and welcome back to GOOPERS. Today I wanted to talk about one of my favourite franchise series, the Mario and Luigi RPGs. Not only are they some of the best RPGs I've ever played, being so enticing, enthralling, and other descriptive words beginning with E, they also managed to keep my attention throughout over 100 hours of gameplay, which is something that most games don't do nowadays. So through this video I hope to share with you how the games are good and the steps forwards or backwards each entry into the franchise made. Hopefully, I'm not too biased.
Nintendo!
Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is the first game in the franchise, and I mean, what a way to start. The game immediately opens up with what seems like a normal scenario for the Mushroom Kingdom, but it's actually a terrorist organization taking it over in a very hostile way. I mean, then you cut to, Mario in the shower and then Toad sees it. It's kind of funny, let's be honest with ourselves. But the main draw of the game was still Mario and Luigi working together. This is the only game where the bros moves that are usually prime front and center of the games were actually bros moves. They didn't feature any external items, anything that wouldn't be doable just between the two. It was a very creative way to do moves, but I can understand why they etched that out going forwards. The game's story is very simple. Basically, this one wants to be the queen of the universe, and this one wants to help, but then this one dies, and then this one needs to get the voice, this one to get this thing to start up, and then grant all of their wishes, and then this one didn't actually voice steal, this one is actually secretly not being this one, and yeah, that sums up the entire game. It's pretty good, it's pretty cool. This game is vastly different from the other ones in the series, however. For instance, the jump mechanic doesn't feature you needing to press both buttons twice, it only requires one press at perfect timing to get maximum damage. The hammer works in a very different system as well, being that you need to wait for it to shake and then throw it down instead of wait until Mario reaches a certain level and then press the button. It's a very strange adjustment you need to make, me coming from the previous games in the franchise, but it's one that does make it a little easier to differentiate between titles, knowing which one is this system of combat and then the other one isn't that. It's better. Just say. It's nice that it has its own style, but I can definitely see why they improved later on.
Let's go! Yo, yo! Yay! Yahoo! Whoopee! Ow, 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 ow! Yahoo! Ha!
Now, let's talk about the remake. The remake is how I've always played this series until recently, and it is the best way to play this game. The remake itself is one of the better Nintendo remakes. It's not just, ooh, look at us, we did thing and like one character changed. No, they revamped the entire thing. They added lighting systems to it, for heck's sake. I don't even know why you would do that. It's a 3DS game with no 3D. The game looks great, the characters look great, the combat's more functional, they added little extra bits to help new players. You know, everything's there that you would expect in a remake and then more. Honestly, it is the best place to start if you haven't played any of these games before. I would say not to start with the GBA game though, as it does get tough in areas and the combat can be a bit hard to then get used to the rest of the series. Overall, Superstar Saga is an amazing game, however it does suffer from being the first in the series. It's not got the experience that makes Bowser's Inside Story one of the best, and it's not got the successes that Partner in Time had to make Bowser's Inside Story the best. Okay, maybe I am a bit biased, but you know, still, it's a very, very fun game. Right, now we move on to Partners in Time, and I must admit, I have not played this one much. I recently started playing it again when my interest got piqued, and it's just for an unknown reason. The game features Mario and Luigi and Luigi. But, baby. The baby versions of both of the bros are very cute. I mean, half of the time that you spend playing the game will be going, oh, at the little baby interactions between the bros and the younger versions of themselves. It really does change how certain dialogue happens, and it's really nice seeing characters like Toadsworth still interacting with his younger self while, you know, denying that time travel even exists in the first place. The game manages to remain entertaining despite being technically one of the shorter games in the franchise, with the areas you're in usually only taking about half an hour to complete, opposed to some areas in other games taking hours upon hours. It's a very simple story to grasp as well, but is the darkest in the franchise. It literally is just like, wow, these guys are just genocidal maniacs. What a fun Peggy 3 rated game. I might give this to my 2-year-old. Please shut up and, you know, take me away. This game took a lot of steps forward for the franchise. I mean, it introduced the double jump mechanic, which became the staple of the gameplay. It meant that when you selected an enemy, you could jump on it twice, dealing twice as much as damage, as long as you had the young bros on you, or the old bros on you. Young bros are obviously way weaker compared to the old ones, and, you know, good enough reason, I think. But one thing the young bros do have over the other ones is that they can traverse better. They can literally get thrown into big old holes in the ground and be like, hee hee, we tiny little tykes, I'm gonna hit this. Oh no, I started the genocide again. The game did take a step back though. It removed the bros points from the structure of the game. It didn't decide to have bros moves as something that you had a stat for and you needed to take items to refill. No, you had to buy them or discover them in the world. It's a very weird way to do progression for moves, because on one hand, the old system where, you know, Mario and Luigi would walk up to NPCs and get taught a move and then use it in battle, admittedly is cool. It's way more jarring to be walking around the world and then just jump up, you hit a block, and then find a brand new move you never knew existed. It's easier if there's an intro to it so you know it's coming. That's what she said. Of course, this game took amazing steps forward for the franchise as a whole. As mentioned before, they reintroduced us to the jump mechanics. They did not edit the hammer mechanics, but they did allow us to see the entire Mario and Luigi franchise as it could truly be. It wasn't afraid to hold back as much as it would with the first, trying to create a positive experience. It was allowed to be a darker game, a darker story, darker premise. I mean, I'm saying darker, but yet again, it's a Mario and Luigi game. It doesn't get that dark.
Nintendo!
Alright, and on to my personal favourite in the series, Bowser's Inside Story. This game is a masterpiece. I love this game. Admittingly, I've never finished it, but I've gotten close on several occasions. I just can't bring myself to end what is the best game out of all of them. Full stop. The franchise peaked here. The story is basically Thorful from the first game, who I forgot to mention earlier. He was Cackla's side kick, and basically he tricks Bowser, who is angry, into eating this suspicious mushroom, and then Bowser inhales the entire Mushroom Kingdom, apart from the parts that Thorful likes. Meaning Mario and Luigi get stuck up inside of Bowser's, breatheways, intestinal tracts for some reason, able to control his nerves, which is a premise in and of itself that would be amazing. But not only do you get to control the bros, you also get to fight as Bowser. The comedy in this game is amazing as well. I mean, some moments just straight up make me chuckle out loud, and for no good reason. Some of this game is so good for no reason whatsoever. Another cool thing that the series introduced was Starlo, who turns out to be one of the main recurring characters throughout the franchise. Starlo always uses her catchphrase, "Hello Yellow," which really shows that this is as individual of a character as they could make. This game just took leaps and strides forwards for the series. I mean, it kept stuff that was from the two games. It kept double jump from Partners in Time, but it changed things like the hammer system to be way easier for newcomers, but also just as equally as challenging. It wasn't easy, it wasn't hard, it was the perfect balance in between, where if you lost a fight, you knew it wasn't the game's fault. It was your fault. You were the one who didn't do the button inputs correctly. They re-added the bros points. I mean, admittedly, it's the weirdest one in the games because of the fact they call them special points. They don't call them bros points for whatever weird reason. They revert back to it in the next game. It's just never addressed. But they did do the progression right. As I said before with Partners in Time, one of the main jarring things is that you could just be wandering around an area disconnected from the rest of the world and unlock a totally new bros move. In this game, you've got to go to specific areas and hit specific blocks. That is the only way that you can get bros moves in this game, and it really does feel like you're progressing once you fill up that entire portrait and then unlock a move that is easy in premise but hard to master. As I'm saying this, I'm just thinking how amazing this game was for introducing stuff, yet again, like the massive battles, which continued throughout the rest of the franchise. I call them massive battles, they're more like gigantic battles, where at some points you can just make Bowser grow massive, like the size of a skyscraper, and then fight enemies like an old lighthouse or his castle. You know, stuff that is in a Mario Luigi game. But it all comes down to just how amazingly everything ties together. The story is just dark enough for you to feel the threat building up throughout the game, but it's still light-hearted in nature in the way that you're not gonna die of a heart attack if you know, accidentally walk into a room. Now, from what I can remember, I do not think that this game took any steps backwards. It did remove the old hammer system, which was an easier way to do combat. However, it did add like the excellent ratings, for example, for regular attacks. The only step back that I could possibly think of would be in the character interactions. Some of them aren't as good as the interactions between the young bros and the old bros, but between all of the interactions in the game, they still shine brighter in comparison to Partners in Time and Superstar Saga, which is kind of sad to say. And here's where I'd usually say about the remake. However, in this setting, I think it's easier if I just leave it for a bit and come back to it at the end. Right, that sums up Bowser's Inside Story, which, in my opinion, it is the best Mario and Luigi game that came out just ever. It was amazing, the story was so fun, the game was fun. I sunk over 120 hours into this game when I was younger. I don't even know how I did that, considering that I had a very strict time on my electronics. But I think it was just such a good game that I defied the laws of physics. Seriously, if you have an old DS or even a 3DS and like 15 quid around about, buy the game and play it through. It's an experience you've gotta have. I cannot recommend it enough. Now we get on to the game where many would claim the franchise took a massive decline in quality, but I would argue it kept it about the same as Bowser's Inside Story, although did fail in certain aspects. The game in itself, being Mario and Luigi Dream Team, is a good idea. They managed to keep all the 2D sections out of the overworld and compiled them all into the dream sequences. All of the dream sequences being funny and whimsical due to them literally being inside of Luigi's mind. The idea of an ancient civilization being trapped as stone statues, like, the clever thing was how they made the citizens pillows, because Dream Team, and they weren't afraid to add stuff like character interactions between what would essentially be the two tutorial characters throughout the game, being Starlow's Return, of course, and Prince Dreambert, who shows up and is a genuinely interesting and complex character. This game did take a few steps forward. It introduced motion controls to certain attacks being in the Dream Realm, and these are simple enough. You tilt the 3DS, you gotta tilt the 3DS, you gotta tilt the 3DS, that will just tilt in the 3DS. They also improved stuff like big battles, where it would be Dreamy Luigi, but the timings are way easier. The game was definitely easier as well. I mean, in the footage I'm currently showing on stream, you might be able to notice that when initiating a battle, instead of doing what it usually does, which is, oh no, a battle and you jumped 1 frame too late, guess you don't get the jump bonus. It lets me have it even though Mario barely grazed the slight outside skin layer that nobody would ever be able to feel in their lives. The games got easier as it got on, but this is the point where it seems to have reached the ultimatum where the game is easy. Now for steps backwards, and this pains me because I sunk a lot of time into this game. The game is highly regarded as a tutorial. Throughout the game, even when unlocking just small little things, one of the tutorial characters being, Starlo or Prince Dreambert will tell you how this works, or tell you that this is the thing that should happen. And yes, you can skip it, but you have to go through 2 dialogue boxes to say, please skip it, I want to go home and see my friends and family. It's not something that you'd expect. It also seems like jumps and getting excellent timings, that's what I probably should have said at the start, it's just too easy. Not much timing is actually needed in them to get an excellent rating, whereas in Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, although the timings are reduced to make it easier, it's still hard to get stuff like the hammer or Bowser's Punch on your first playthrough. Overall, this game is still a delight despite its shortcomings. Even though it's a lesser to Bowser's Inside Story that came before, the story and character interactions more than make up for it, as well as some of the attacks which are very memorable and even easier to execute. It is a really good introduction to the franchise, however, I would not recommend playing this one first as you'd be missing out on a lot.
Oh no!
Now we get on to the start of the decline in my mind with Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. While there's nothing wrong in concept for this game, it's more the fact that it stifled the creativity of Alpha Dream, the parent company, throughout making this. They didn't really have a say in what characters they could use. Throughout the series, we've always seen interesting character designs. New races like the Beanish people, block people, I don't know what they're called, people like that. All of these different races just conjured up, perfect in themselves, and perfect in practically any way visually as well. But because they're having to use the Paper Mario license, they've got to abide by the fact that Nintendo, the spineless ones, have decided that Paper Mario can have nothing but toads for the rest of its natural life cycle. Meaning, through this game, you see a lot of toads, and sadly, not much else. I mean, they took away the one thing from Starlo that I remember at the start of every single game. I remember hearing, "Hello, Yellow. No, it's a pleasure to meet you. That's not my Starlo." It did take a few steps forward, however. The moving around the overworld was never so easy, as you could later on gain a dash move that meant that you just ran really fast. You could also use the R shoulder button to skip through cutscenes never achievable before in any other Mario and Luigi game, making it a first for the franchise, and something that's still continued in the remakes. Overall, it was making some steps forward, but not enough to counter the negatives, sadly. Now we get on to where it starts to really ache. The fact that you can see that this is where the series started to take a little bit of a slow trundle downhill. Many of the new mechanics added aren't really new. They add the third character, but we've already seen extra characters being, young bros and partners in time. They give Paper Mario a unique ability being copy, but all this does is just make the game pathetically easy. You may have less HP, but as long as you got a turn spare, you could literally make a shield that means you don't need to take damage. They add emergency guard, which is a good thing, usually. However, in this game, just means that if you know you can't dodge an attack, you can take 1 damage for that turn, and, you're done. Paper Mario in itself would have been a really cool inclusion if the story didn't boil down to, oh no, Bowser have kidnapped the princess. Whatever will we do? Overall, Mario & Luigi Paper Jam is the weakest Mario & Luigi game. However, it's a weak Mario & Luigi game, meaning it's still good. It's not in any essence of the way a bad game. It is a amazing game to play, but nothing worthwhile to coming back to. It's the only game where I didn't feel the need to pick it back up and finish it. And I think that should speak for itself, being that there's not much compulsion in me, an avid Mario & Luigi fan who'd love to see the series return one day, to play the game again. I mean, in this video, I only recorded 10 minutes of gameplay footage for it, whereas for everything else, I have plenty to cut between.
Woohoo! Yeah!
And now we get back to what was unfortunately the final nail in the coffin, and it really shouldn't have been. The Bowser's Inside Story remastered. Now, this is a weird concept in and of itself. It was a DS game that played on the 3DS, that got a 3DS version that really only changed the graphics up a bit and made some boss fights butterfly easier. It didn't add anything that wasn't needed there at the start. It tried to add things. I mean, obviously having the extra Bowser Jr.'s Journey is always a welcome addition. I forgot to mention Minion Quest earlier, and with all the remakes, these are welcome additions. They're fun little side modes that you can sink hours into. But the main game itself, really, the only version differences that it boils down to is, do you prefer this visual style or this visual style? Or one minigame being slightly easier. The music as well, I found slightly lacked. I don't know what it is about the original tracks in DS compression that just makes it go together so well, but it didn't click for me. And that is such a shame, because like I said before, Bowser's Inside Story is by far the best game in the series. But all of this, it wouldn't have mattered if it wasn't for the final nail that put this series to rest indefinitely. This game got no promotional material outside of a Nintendo Direct advert and one advertising campaign aimed at only Japanese consumers. I would not blame you if you didn't know that Bowser's Inside Story got a remake because God knows half of the world doesn't. What the hell, Nintendo? You're pushing for this company to keep making you Mario and Luigi games, and loads of people love them. But you don't have the backbone to just give the goddamn series some more marketing? What would have been better is to see the second game remastered in any way, because that game needed it more than Bowser's Inside Story, which was already good enough. I said good enough, but like, it was perfect. It really didn't deserve this. And that just about wraps up what I have to say on Mario and Luigi. It's an amazing franchise. There will never be anything that gets close to it, unless Alpha Dream somehow rises from the grave on Hallows Eve and decides to make a second one. It was fun while it lasted, and I'm forever upset that Nintendo is unlikely to ever continue this series, as it should be. These games have always resonated with me. They've always been important parts of what I played as a child, what I still play. It's stuff that I can always return to, and I always feel happy returning to them, no matter how many times I get close to the final boss and then delete my save file to start again. Oh yeah, I never watched any of the final boss. I'd never played a final boss. I mean, that didn't matter when you're giving an opinion on the series. Who told you that? Hello, thank you for watching the video. It took a very, very long time to make. It's currently 2 AM as I'm recording this ending segment, but I just wanted to thank you all for basically the support that has been shown with the last videos. And, you know, if you haven't seen them, why not go and see them? The icon should be on the left, I think. But thank you very much to everybody for watching these videos. It really means a lot, and I hope you all have a good day. As always, it's been an honor and a pleasure, and thank you. Goodbye.